So we mentioned kind of people who, what the Bitcoin community might call scammers. I have a lot of passions in my life that I focus a lot of my attention to. Bitcoin doesn't happen to be yet one of them. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Glad you said yet.
I'm always looking for things to really fall in love with. So how is a person like me supposed to figure out? I also happen to have a platform a little bit, and how am I supposed to figure out who is what is an interesting set of ideas and what are not? Because people are financially tied into a lot of the cryptocurrencies that we're talking about, certainly with Bitcoin. Their livelihood, their well-being is tied up to it. So it becomes much more emotional, much more personal. It's no longer purely an exploration of ideas. It's really almost like a threat on your property. It's a personal threat. It makes it very difficult to explore those ideas. So I understand it, but it makes it very difficult for somebody like me to just walk in and be curious. So how do I proceed in this difficult world in exploring this landscape and not give a platform to ideas that may harm others?
I guess first I'd like to commend your forthrightness about this, because I don't think many people try to walk that line necessarily. People, again, kind of the territorial imperative, they'll put whoever on that will help expand their reach.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Or say whatever needs to be said to expand their reach. So I think you're coming from a good place. I'll say that. There's a great piece written on the topic of scammers and scamming. I think it was by Goldstein. He wrote a piece called "Everyone's a Scammer," and it's sort of back to this, general human proclivity to try and get something for nothing always. Which again, it can be positive, it can be innovative, or it can be negative. It can be trying to steal from people. Yeah. That might be, I think that's a useful piece just to kind of see the crypto world through that lens. And that's how Bitcoiners are thinking all the time. They are by nature adversarial thinkers. So they're trying to minimize the need for trust in any situation and maximize verification. As far as sifting through the ideas, I guess this is back where the cultural immune system has some utility.
Yeah.
Because there were times when I thought this particular crypto asset, Augur was one I was really into, that it could facilitate prediction markets, and prediction markets could make markets more efficient, et cetera, et cetera. But when that investment thesis basically met the cultural filter or immune system, it forced me to reevaluate my position, forced me to really look into it more deeply. And through that exploration, I realized that it would need to be built on Bitcoin to work, basically. So, but it really comes down to like you doing your homework, but we can't all deeply evaluate every idea out there, right?
Yeah. One of the things I struggle with Alex Jones, for example, had dinner with him. That I could tell that would be a very fun conversation, but then I also understand that there's consequences to that conversation that should be explored with care. Mm-hmm. And so you need to take on the responsibility of being a chef of the pufferfish and all those kinds of things. That said, just like you said, it's very difficult to know this ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And I will probably make mistakes. And that's a shitty thing to have to live with, that I'm going to make mistakes, and some of them very large. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine a bunch of different ways. But all we can do in this world is, once we make the mistakes, we acknowledge those mistakes.
Yes. Learn.
And also, I have to put this on the rest of us, that you don't take one thing that a person did and then burn them at the stake for it. That you realize that we all make mistakes, that a particular mistake does not make the person. And this applies to taking stuff out of context over, hundreds of hours of talking, but it applies to actual, in context, big mistake. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what if I murdered somebody at some point? Just give me a break. No, there are some things that are too far, of course, but in general, we need to give each other a chance. Yeah, but I walk with a heavy heart, knowing that I'll probably make a mistake, especially one that I didn't mean to. That's the one that worries me most.
Well, this is human nature. Like hamartia, to miss the mark. That's the root word of sin. Like, we are sinful by nature. We can't help it. There's no way, again, pain is information, right? There's no way to learn other than trying, failing, learning. And then you put yourself in better formation, right? In
Yeah.
formation to better deal with it next time. So I hope, I don't get the sense that you're actually afraid of or of making a misstep. Like, I think you're just maybe disappointed is a better word. Like, you're going to make the
Yeah,
mistakes.
that's exactly. That's
Right?
a much, much better word.
But we have to embrace that.
Yeah.
That's the only way it's the only way we can advance. Is that we're dealing with an incomprehensible reality. All we can do is throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And in that process, we're all, inherently going to hurt ourselves and hurt others. And that's where love and forgiveness come into play, right? And yeah, I think the other thing is that this culture of reducing people down to a label, right? Whether it's racism or whether you're calling them a scammer or any number of terms, you're discounting their sovereignty to zero, right? You're taking a super complex human that is vast, contains multitudes, is changing over time, and you're trying to put them in a bucket of a word. And that is just, I think, a cognitive fallacy. Like, that's not only going to hurt the person that you're, winnowing down to a word, but it's also going to hurt you. And it's going to, in your attempt to decomplexify reality by assigning this person to a term, you're actually going to create bad outcomes for yourself because you're not going to understand that person.
I do also think there's the failure of our social media technology that incentivizes that kind of reduction to a label. It just the viral nature of that reduction. So it's not only do we humans naturally do that, our social media platforms make that easier, more fun, more effective to do that at scale, the mass hysteria. So I think there's actually like technological ways of adding friction to that.
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, I agree with you that it's social media is an amplifier to our natural, this natural way of dealing with one another. But I wonder, and my thinking has evolved a lot on this, that there's something below the way we're treating each other too, right? That we could say civilization sort of advances in the tools we make and the way we treat each other. We tend to have better tools, better quality of life, and better morality, better quality of living, and ways of dealing with one another. And I think that when you corrupt the money, that it really does push us the negative direction, pushes us away from, again, encouraging or magnifying scarcity artificially causes us to be more divisive. When things are more divisive, we tend to be less civilized, less nuanced, more, black or white, or this or that, or you're this, or you're label A or label B. So I really think, and this is a harder one to unravel, but I think if we can fix the money, right, which again is the base layer operating system for human moral action in the world, that it has downstream effects. So we'd actually maybe start to treat each other a little better on social media, despite the fact that it enables this faster communication.
That's interesting. So perhaps fixing like social media, as I've been thinking about, is treating the symptom, not the cause.